Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are about to go down probably the biggest um movie rabbit hole we've done. That's probably the wrong way to put it. It's the longest movie I think we'll ever have done on the channel. Technically two movies, but it was intended as one because we will be reacting to Nymphomania. This is a donation request of Venom, so thank you as always, Venom. Or Nymphomaniac, by the way, not Nymphomania. Nymphomaniac. So, for those who don't know, a nymphomaniac is a woman, assigned female at birth woman, who has this insatiable desire for sexual activity. Uh, and one thing I didn't know about this ahead of time is that it is only women. Like, again, AFAB, assigned female at birth, women. Though that's just what the like term like denotes and everything. I assume like trans women, it would the same word would be used. Um, but I found out there is a masculine equivalent term for this. The male equivalent is satyriasis. Um, Don Juanism is also a like colloquial term that some people use. But satyriasis is the official like male equivalent of nymphomania. So a nymphomaniac and a satyriacist, I assume, or something like that. Satyriacist, something like that. But yeah, this is specifically, I guess, about a female character who who is extremely like desiring sex, like to an extreme degree. I'm emphasizing extreme, I know. And that's about all I can probably guess from this. I don't know who's in this movie. I don't know like what else the plot involves in any way. But I do know that this movie is by Lars von Trier, and it is very long. It was so long that he decided to split it into two parts. Even though it's technically the same singular film, it's split into two separate film releases um, due to its length. There's two versions as well. There's the regular version and the unedited version, and I think we got the latter. Um, because I think the total runtime between the two is about 5.5 hours. I am not fucking with you here. And you may be wondering, that's like, oh, then why don't you just do them separately? Like, you could do part one for the first movie of the week and do part two for the second movie. It's like, yeah, I could do that. But the thing is, if it's meant to be one movie, if it was filmed and made to be a singular film, why would I want to split that up? Um, wouldn't it just be better for me to get through the whole thing in one go and do it all like in a single thing? Um, but I understand the kind of thought process there because obviously I've been going through it, trying to figure out exactly how I should do this film. And so I'm going to basically leave it up to the film. We're going to watch part one, and I'm going to determine from there if we're going to watch part two literally right away within the same reaction, if we're going to do part 2 for the second movie reaction of this week, or if we're going to just hold off on it a bit. It's going to come down to that kind of thing. I don't know what's going to end up happening with this because, like I said, I don't know really anything about this film. But we're going to leave it up to that because I think that's the fairest assumption. Obviously, well, maybe. Maybe by the point you're seeing this on Saturday, you'll know. Because, like, if the title just says Nymphomaniac, it's the entire thing. If it says Nymphomaniac Part 1, then that either means that it's going to be coming, that Part 2 is either going to be tomorrow on Sunday, for you tomorrow, not for me for recording this, but you know what I mean. Or it's going to be at some point in the future, which I'll mention in the afterthoughts. We'll see how it goes. Again, I'm going to base it purely off of the film itself and how I'm feeling after watching it. We'll see. We will see. Now, obviously, considering what I've said, like the subject matter based on the title is all about, this movie is more than likely going to include, especially since, again, I believe based on the runtime, it's the unedited version. This movie is going to more than likely include notable nudity, notable sex, and possibly other, like, notable visuals in that regard. If you are, like, very uncomfortable by that, I mean, don't watch this. Unless you're just that curious about my reaction. Obviously, the description down below will also have a warning, because I feel like this is the kind of movie that would require that, just based off of what it, again, it's supposedly about. But yeah, it's just, I don't know exactly how detailed it's going to get. I don't know exactly how visual it's going to get in regards to all of that. But I guess we're going to find out. So let's get this going. And again, there will be in the description below, before the link or links, whatever ends up happening, there will be a warning. Again, for anyone who hasn't watched this far into the pre-thoughts, but there will be a warning. So just as extra precaution. That being said, let's check this out. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, that was a lot, and not just because of the length of the movie/movies, however you want to say it. It was a lot because of the content within. And I want to say this right off the bat. I find this movie to be exceptionally well made. Like, from a production standpoint, from the writing, the cinematography, the acting, the casting, I mean, in general. Um, the storytelling, the way it's paced, the way it's set up, even just the fact that it is, like 5.5 hours long. This movie could not have been made without being that long. This movie is extremely well made. There are parts of it that really bothered me. Um, Aspects of Joe's life that are just, in my eyes, bad, evil, wrong, no matter how you look at it. Joe is not a good person. Joe is a product of circumstances and an unrepressible sexual urge that she, could not control for the most part. And then, like, just craved it back when it did go away for a time. And things were going wrong in her life. And there are some aspects of what Stellan Skarsgård's character was saying at the end. Um, with, like, the gender aspect of it all. There's definitely aspects of that in there. But she is not a good person. There are a lot of things that she has done that is just unequivocally wrong, that are just bad and that keep her from being a good person. Her choosing, or even if it was a subconscious choice, her not killing Jerome in the end doesn't fix all the bad things she's done. It doesn't, like, stop her from having done genuinely bad things. And there are some things that I just don't think are really that forgivable, such as grooming. But I will say, like, outside of, the grooming aspect with P, none of the sexual stuff is any of the problems I have with her character, with her morality, etc. Her being extremely sexually active and everything, and all of just everything that came with that, that's not a fault. I said it during the reaction, but I genuinely believe there is nothing wrong with being sexually active like that. My issue again was, like, consent and knowledge. Having multiple partners, if you're going to, they have to be knowledgeable about what's going on. Otherwise, there is an immorality to that. If you are stringing along a bunch of different people in sexual relationships and they don't know what's going on and they have expectations that are raised because of it, you are the one at fault for stringing them on. If they all know about it and are okay with it, like we did see at some points, where there were those who genuinely knew about the other relationships and were fine with it and still just, they were there for the sex. That's fine. There is nothing immoral or wrong about that. But you have to have that knowledge. Um, there's a lot of, like, heavy shit in this, and there's a lot of, like, shit involving, well, mostly at the beginning, and then the stuff with Mia Goth's character with P. There is some stuff with, characters who are either minors or started as minors as we saw them, character wise. And there's some extremely uncomfortable shit with that. And it's not the first movie I've seen on this channel with content like that, unfortunately. But at the same time, the way it's done, the way it's handled in this, I don't know, a lot of the way a lot of things in this are handled feel more real. I think it's part of the way the filmmaking is done and the way the acting is handled, the way the direction is, that makes it feel like more like realistic and genuine, and that kind of gives it a little more of an icky feeling. Um, but it's just it's very harsh in certain scenes and hard to watch. And speaking of the realism of it, I did want to look up, um, because honestly, with how how we were viewing it all, did these actors like were they actually fucking each other and all? Um, yes and no. See, when making the film, real porn stars were hired to film the sex scenes, and then the actors' faces and bodies were superimposed onto them. So sex scenes were occurring. There was actual sex being filmed for this film, but the actual lead actors and everything weren't the ones engaging in it. They were just they were doing fake motions and everything, and then having their bodies and faces superimposed over everything, which yeah makes a lot of sense, honestly. But the fact that there was actual sex, that like this stuff we were seeing regarding that was real, is pretty wild. I feel like you don't see that in a lot of films even featuring this content. Though I've seen a lot of like obviously mature films that show sex and everything. Outside of like pornography, I think this might be like the most sexually explicit film I've seen. Not necessarily the most like disturbing in regards to sexual stuff I've seen, but in terms of like the amount of sex. um it's so much. And again, it makes sense with the content of the film and what it's about, and even the title. You go into this, you know that's going to happen. I expect it as such. And it didn't bother me because I'm not bothered by sex. But it was just it wasn't surprising, but at the same time it did leave me a little surprised just at how actively much there was. It's a weird kind of little contradiction there, eh? Um, this was a lot more than just sex, though. There was a lot more depth to this film, a lot more nuance, a lot more like character and story, and just so much to it that made it more than that. And I appreciate that. Like the Uma Thurman scene was the best scene of the movie, hands down, not even close. Uma's performance in that scene was like god level. One of the best performances I think I've seen, period. And that's saying something considering how much I've seen, how many movies and shows, etc. It was that good. I obviously can't place it exactly because that's practically impossible just off the top of my head, especially again with as many movies and shows and stuff as I've seen. But at the same time, I just I'm sorry, I'm my mind was blanking on how to like say say it there. Let's just say that this movie had a lot of powerhouse performances, but Uma Thurman's blew me away. It was special. Um, but yeah, it's just it's a crazy, wild film, and the ending was both like It was okay. It wasn't both surprising and unsurprising. I'm not going to use that same thing again. It was not surprising because I honestly saw it coming. There were so many little hints that he was going to try to do something to her, just with how that was like going, and especially with like the things he had been saying during the course of this. Um, I thought for a second though that he was going to end up like having been like hired by Willem Dafoe's character, and he was gonna like kill her for trying to run away or something. Once that plot point was brought up, that's kind of where my mind went. But with like what he had said earlier in the film and everything about there being that innate curiosity that he's had for sex and everything, just without the like strong desire for it, and the fact that he considers himself asexual, it's like once he started coming back in, and it's like that was crossing my mind and everything. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I know where this is going. And it's like, so he's going to try and sate that curiosity because after her long story, it's like, and he even tried to excuse it at the end. He's like, but you've been with thousands of men. It's like he saw her as an easy way to test himself, to test his, to lose his virginity, to test his asexuality. He saw her kind of as an object, which is ironic considering he's the one who was making the statement about like about the gender stuff, and in the end, the way he saw her was, fucked. um, but yeah, it's she was right in the end to shoot him and to end that right there because like he was literally trying to rape her. So yeah. Um, but this movie like really showcases a lot of different characters, and a good amount of them are not good people. It's not just Joe, but like obviously Stellan's character is not good. I would say Jerome is not a good person, and so on and so forth. But all of them exhibit traits and actions that are both good and bad because people are nuanced. Even the worst people have done bad or good things, and even the best people have done bad things. It's more of a point that you have to kind of view the whole rather than specific actions and everything. If you try to view it from like specific things that they've done or said or it believed or whatever, like one thing here and there and everything, like it's hard to like use that as evidence to say they're a good or a bad person because people do bad things sometimes, even if they're not bad people, due to various circumstances. And again, vice versa. But there are certain things that just completely change that. Rape is one of them, just sexual assault in any method, any way. If you sexually assault someone, you are bad. That is bad. There is no getting around that. And can you like find redemption from that? Can you become better and like make up for that? Well, I don't think you can ever really make up for sexually assaulting someone, but you can work to better yourself. You can always work to better yourself. But if you sexually assault someone, I do think that you should be imprisoned for life. I think that that should be just an instant, like, non negotiable truth of things. Like, you can better yourself in prison, but you will stay in prison. No chance of parole, nothing. That is one of those crimes that I do not believe can be, like, made light of, I guess is a way to put it. Um, Another being Nazism, because obviously. Um, I really do think that this movie was really interesting for the fact that the sexuality itself, the sexual nature, wasn't what was shown to be bad in the end, but rather other stuff that the character of Joe and other characters did were the bad things. The sexual nature and having sex was almost never painted as like wholly negative. The only negative aspect was that her addiction to it was hurting her relationships and her livelihood in a lot of ways. But she's not ever shown as being the one who's in the wrong for that. And honestly, the part where she stands up at at the Sex Addicts Anonymous meeting and basically gives this entire speech, instead of like talking about how she's, getting better, she starts talking about like, I don't need to get better. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm proud of who I am. It's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being extremely sexed up and horny. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I feel like that was kind of the point of that scene. But it's these other issues that are what drove her into being in that alleyway. And it's all these other problems, all these other, like, mistakes. And I mean, she was a criminal, like, no matter how you look at it. They even admitted that. Like, Willem Dafoe's character even directly said that and referred to them both and everyone working with them as criminals. So it's like, that's just undeniable. She had done a lot of good things. She had done a lot of things that were really neither good nor bad, just, fine, normal, or at the very least, just not good or bad, just, average in terms of morality. But in the end, the bad stuff she did is kind of what ended up defining her more than being a nymphomaniac, more than her sexual urges and actions. And it's the same thing with Stellan Skarsgård's character. In the end, nothing of what he said, a lot of the stuff of what he said during the course of the story and how he reacted and commentated on what she was saying and what she was telling him, that stuff wasn't all necessarily wrong. Some of it was, but it was his action in the end that defined him above everything else. He chose to take an absolutely unforgivable action, and it was right for him to die. She was defending herself. It's a pretty wild, intense movie that has a lot of things that are uncomfortable, but there's a lot of moments that are just like, they just really suck you in, really pull you into the moment, really invest you in what's going on. And honestly, I had no problem watching 5.5 hours of content here. This is longer than the Snyder cut of Justice League. And because that was like 4 hours in total, I believe, just over. This was longer than that. And mind you, this was the unedited version, but still. I had no problem watching that much because it was engrossing. It was investing. I was interested to see what happened. And the stories themselves were interesting and kept my attention. And, like, I guess I have to mention, it's like, yeah, some of the nudity and sex scenes were fun to watch. Some of them. There were some of them that were very much not. Some of the stuff there was, like, very uncomfortable. Like the torture porn shit with her, like, trying to reignite her orgasm by getting literally physically horrifically tortured. That's not okay. Also, the fact that she was started abandoning her son to do so also made it completely unenjoyable for me. But then there's also, the grooming shit that was extremely like upsetting and stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, there's like sex scenes in there. It's like, oh, that's hot. Yeah. I'd be a dumb dumb to say otherwise. um it's it's a wild movie that you have to definitely be very open to watching. Because if you went into this kind of movie not open to a lot of nudity, sexuality, and just other like kinds of stuff, and including fucked up stuff, you're probably gonna have a bad time. But because I'm open to watching that, and let's be honest, this was not the most fucked up movie I've seen. I have seen a lot worse on this channel at this point. Um, but as long as you're going into this not only just expecting but okay with that kind of content, or at the very least like okay with putting yourself into the shoes of watching that content even if it's going to upset you, then I think you'll find a lot of the depths and intricacies and writing, directing, all of that. I think you'll find a lot to like here. I think this movie has a lot of good to offer as a film, but you really have to be in the right mindset to watch it, in my opinion. Um, and as long as you acknowledge and understand the bads that are in it and the goods that are in it, I think it's fine. So, yeah, I'm glad I checked this out. I'm glad that Venom, you did end up putting this as a suggestion. Although I think it's one of those movies that I put like on my list on Discord of like ideas. So I kind of like hinted at it a little bit. But I'm glad you chose it nonetheless. And I mean, again, just for Uma Thurman's performance alone, goddamn, she deserves awards for that performance. But I know because what this movie is, this movie has probably not won much of any awards, and she probably did not get the recognition she deserved for that performance. But goddamn. So all of that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know those down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.